Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about the importance of pushing our supplemental lifts as hard as possible and knowing when and how to change them around. And examples that I'm going to have showing in the background from old training footage. And again, a lot of times people come in and say, why do you have this old footage? I don't understand. What are you doing? Is this a workout? No, it's not. If you guys want to see my workouts, they're vlogged every single day. Every workout I do year-round is vlogged with a date on it, with commentary on what I'm doing in order and why. So that's all available. But these are a lot of supplemental lifts being done throughout here. A lot of closed grip pressing, JM presses, and good mornings, because these are very important supplemental lifts to me. And because they're important supplemental lifts, I'm going to push them as hard as possible. And I'm going to go so far as to say that if something isn't an important supplemental lift to you, if you don't look at that lift and see directly why it fits in your program and why you need to progress on it, you probably need to remove it unless it's some sort of smaller restoration work. In other words, a lot of times we do a lot of fluff stuff on off days from training and things we do between sessions that are restoration, things with bands, stuff like that. That's a little bit different. Hey, those sort of things, it's not a big deal to not care about performance on, because you're just chasing usually a pump with bands or something, very high reps. For me, I do reverse hypers, band work, things like that. But for anything you're doing during a main session, you have to track performance. You have to track performance. If you are trying to get as strong as possible, you need to push all your supplemental lifts. And the reason for that is that this is where we get our size from. Okay, we're not getting big from maxing out. We're not. Our really heavy work is there to teach us how to max out. It's to maximize strength. It's to develop maximum strength. But our strength potential for our individual frame comes from our hypertrophy. And please note I said for our individual frame, because someone will say, well, this guy over here isn't that big and lifts X amount of weight. Well, I promise you that if he had less muscle, he would lift less weight. It still has to do with individual frames, leverages, things like that. You cannot remove the two. Size and strength there's a massive overlap. And in individuals, there's like a 90% overlap. Even though it might not appear that way comparing different people, might not appear that way looking at different people, for you as a person, there will be a 90% overlap between your muscle mass and your strength, at least on lifts that use all the muscles you're comparing. In other words, if you have a lift that's weaker but you've gained muscle, it's probably because you lost muscle tissue somewhere involved with that exercise. Okay? In other words, your bench could go up and your squat could go down if you let your glutes and hips or something lose muscle tissue while working on your bench. Okay? Pretty simple. But the point is, we need to push these as hard as we can, and that means going for PRs, pushing for progressive overload in the rep ranges that we're using. So let's use these three exercises above that I mess with frequently and where I've been doing 3 sets of 10. Right? That's what I shoot for, 3 sets of 10 on these. Well, what does that mean? That means that I try to add weight all the time, or we go for extra reps. In other words, if you are trying to maximize your 3x10 on these movements, we use fractional plates to load them up to make them go up. We might get to the last set and see if we can get more than 10. In other words, a 3x10 should be pretty close to your 10 rep max. Okay, maybe you've got one more rep on the first set than the last set, so you might leave a rep or so in reserve. But you should be close to hitting failure on the final one. And what we can oftentimes do is test the final set. And I like to do that a lot of times. If you can get 12 reps on the last set, you need to add weight. Okay, you need to add weight. But what happens if you can't get an 11th rep even? So what happens if you've been adding weight, you don't add any more weight, you get to your final set, and that 10th rep is a little grindy? What does that tell us? That means that you've stalled on this exercise. And now we could argue, rightfully so, that as long as you're creating fatigue, and you're generating fatigue and the last set is hard, you're probably generating some muscle growth. Okay? That's true. That is true. But you're not generating it fast enough if you can't increase things. And I'm not saying it has to be every session. Because a lot of times we can do the same weight 2 sessions in a row. Do the same weight 2 sessions in a row. Before people jump in and say, well, what about novices? Novices have set linear progression. They don't need this info. But none of you are going to be novices that long. Anyone who's training hard and listening and running a novice program, who's watching these videos now, 6 months from now, you're going to need this info. And that's why we discuss it. It doesn't mean it's for novices. But for everybody who's past their novice phase, we need to look at it this way. So what happens if we stall and we can't progress? What if we get 2 workouts in a row where we can't get another rep? Or we've added fractional plates and we can only get 9 reps? Like we've added 2.5 pounds to one of these movements and we only get 9 reps on the last one when we're going for a 3x10. And we haven't been able to get an 11th or a 12th rep. Well, you need to rotate the exercise. And again, I understand that it doesn't mean we're not making progress. They're like, well, we're just growing slower. Yeah, but that's bad for you psychologically. Okay, when you're not seeing progress on your supplemental lifts, you're not seeing evidence of hypertrophy. Right? It's time to adjust something. This is why we need all these different tools. This is why when people say, oh, I just need a barbell and plate. No, that's not true. That's how you get over use injuries. So what do I mean change something? All right, the closed grip bench, you could switch barbells. You can switch barbells. You can go to a football bar. You can go to a buffalo bar. Right? A lot of people are going to say, but Jason, my gym doesn't have this different equipment. Well, you need to start bringing stuff to the gym with you. Okay? You're not a novice lifter anymore. Just doing the basics and coming in and pushing 6 exercises really hard is going to get you hurt. And that's one of the things that I note. I've noted with myself, I've noted with other lifters, minimalism doesn't work past the novice phase. Not that you can't get big and strong, it's that you get hurt all the time. All right, guys who rotate stuff all the time, we don't get hurt very often, do we? My friends, personal friends of mine I know who use minimalism, who are really strong, they get injured all the time. They get injured all the time. They're always pulling something. They're always hurting. And that's why. So let's come over to rotating movements to keep progression going. Okay, so you don't have different barbells. Well, what can we bring to the gym with us? Do they have chains at your gym? Throw some chains on there. You don't have that? Well, bring some mini bands to the gym with you. How about getting a bench block? Right, get one of the smaller, cheaper bench blocks. You can get them for about $30. You can take that in your gym bag on your pressing days, your upper body days. So what do you mean upper body days? Yes, if you're not following an upper-lower type split, I don't know what you're doing on this channel. Don't come here for programming advice, because every bit of programming advice that I give is for upper-lower. I don't think there's a need for anything else. I think you're wasting your time with anything more complex than that. Most elite coaches tend to agree. About the most complex split you need, upper lower. So get a bench block, do a one board. Do a one board. When that stalls, just like the other did, go back to your normal range of motion. But if you have access to a bow bar, you can go the other way. You can add more range of motion. All right. How about bands? Could you hook mini bands over the bar? Do you have a way to hook them at the bottom? Great. If not, I mean, you can rig something up. You can use dumbbells and plates to rig up mini bands. Failing that, if you have a rack at the gym, do reverse bands then. Even if you're only changing 20 or 30 pounds worth of minor band tension, that's enough. Good morning, switch barbells. If you're using a straight bar, go to a safety bar or cambered bar. If your gym doesn't have bars, use bands. Use chains. The other thing I would ask, so a lot of guys are out there, well, I'm serious about my strength, but I can't find, my gym doesn't have different bars and chains. Well, maybe you need to build a home gym. If you can't find an appropriate gym with that stuff, maybe you should consider building your own. That's what everyone else is doing these days after the whole virus situation. Everyone's building home gyms. Too serious. You might want to get on that boat. But failing that, bands are always an option. There's always a way to hook bands up. Same thing, our JM press, we can hook reverse bands under. All right, you have different things you can do. When the lifts stall, we need to keep progressing though. We need to keep progressing. We need to find a way to keep progressing. So those are options. Even on the closed grip press, you might even go over to dumbbell presses for just a bit. And a dumbbell press done correctly is pulled in pretty tight. It's pretty similar to a closed grip press, actually. A correctly done shoulder safe flat press with dumbbells is a lot more similar to a closed grip bench than it is a wide grip bench. Use that for a little bit. Okay, if you're at a gym that doesn't have all this other stuff, like if you're at a gym they have dumbbells, I promise you that. All right, go to dumbbells for a phase. When that caps out, go back to your closed grip press. Maybe go to a closed grip floor press. Same thing with your good morning. Let's say you don't have all these options. Well, you hook bands up. You can maybe do good mornings off pins. Right? You have options. You're going to have to do something different. But you need to always be progressing on these movements. And when you can't progress, you need to swap them around for close variations if they're essential movements for you. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.